2019 LCK 스프링 목요일 첫 경기 KT가 깔끔하게 승리를 가져갔습니다. 분석 데스크 오늘도 함께합니다. 안녕하세요. 저는 김민아고요. 빗돌님 오늘도 오셨습니다.
네.
그리고 오늘 캡장님께서 처음으로 함께하게 됐어요. 인사 한 말씀 부탁드릴게요.
네. 안녕하세요. 네, 이번에 분석 데스크에 합류하게 된 캡틴 잭 강형우입니다. 반갑습니다.
메라님 쫓아내신 건 아니죠?
번갈아 가면서 나옵니다. 저희 이렇게.
알겠습니다. 저희 오늘도 달려보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 첫 번째 경기 KT가 정말 완벽하게 승리를 거뒀다고 해도 무리가 아닐 것 같은데요. 경기 어떻게 보셨나요?
네, 뱀픽에서 일단은 최근에 핫했던 또 그 이즈리얼을 빠르게 가져가는 모습이 나왔고 거기에 이제 아무래도 KT가 바텀이 그래도 뭔가 로스터에서 아직은 아쉬움이 있지 않겠냐라는 불안감이 있었는데 11위로 굉장히 바텀을 또 잘 풀어간 것 같아요.
네, 그렇죠. 바텀 듀오가 해줄 역할을 제대로 해줬어요. 결국에 위쪽에서 최대한 풀고 바텀 어떻게 보험 역할을 할 수 있었거든요. 그거를 이즈리얼 상대로 11로 고르고 후반까지 쭉쭉 한 번도 데스도 없이 쭉 갔다라는 게 정말 좋은 호흡이었던 것 같습니다.
네, 오늘 정말 경기 중에 멋진 장면이 많이 나왔습니다. 저희가 짚어볼 장면 어떤 장면이 있을까요?
네, 무엇보다 역시나 경기 초반에 KT가 전반적으로 흐름을 가져간 거는 이 스코어 선수의 정글 그라가스의 설계 플레이였는데 그 장면들을 가지고 저희가 또 짚어볼 요소들이 있어가지고 좀 준비를 해봤습니다.
네, 탑에서
네.
있었던 장면이죠.
이게 트알 선수가 갱킹을 당할 전 장면인데요. 라인 상황이 애매하기도 했고 순간이동을 활용한 다른 데서의 교전을 준비하다 보니까 이렇게 궁을 쓰면서 라인 복귀를 했었어요.
그렇죠.
이 상황에서 이미 스코어는 저렇게 깊숙이 들어와서 땅굴을 파고 있는 상황이었기 때문에 여기서 저렇게 모든 CC가 상대가 소진되고 나서 만약 라이즈가 궁이 있었다면은 살 수 있지 않을까 이런 생각이 들긴 했었거든요.
네, 보통 이제 탑라이즈 입장에서는 궁극기가 사용할 것이 딱히 없긴 해요. 그래서
초반에는.
네, 저렇게 라인 복귀할 때 한 번쯤 써야지 해서 썼던 게 저렇게 데스로
네.
목에 이어지게 되었습니다.
그걸 노리고 고동빈 선수가 거기에 숨어 있었던 게 아닐까 하는 생각을 하고요.
네.
또 바텀에서도 아주 멋진 장면이 있었죠?
그렇습니다. 바텀에서도 또다시 스코어 선수가 바텀 라인을 따라가고 부시에 숨어가지고 순식간에 바텀 듀오에게 압박을 주는 장면이 나왔었는데 거기서도 KT 보듀오와의 체계적인 낚시가 일품이었어요. 11호 턴키즈가 일부러 위에서 포지션 잡은 거잖아요.
연기를 정말 잘해요.
게다가 스코어 선수의 노련함이 보였던 게 전멸을 아끼지 않아요. 데미지를 일단 넣어야 한타를 이긴다는 거 알거든요. 이즈리얼이 혹시나 뒷기전으로 데미지를 피해버리면 그게 한타가
안 되니까.
역전이 될 수도 있는데 그걸 아예 방지하듯이 전멸 과감하게 쓰고 데미지 넣고 한타 대승하는 그림을 만들었죠.
네, 실질적으로 초반에도 저희가 뭐 이렇게 장면을 보여드리기는 애매해서 안 잡았지만은
네.
스코어 선수가 자크 보노 선수의 동선을 핑을 계속 찍는데 그게 자크가 마지막에 바텀갱을 한번 가기 전까지는 타이밍이 다 맞아떨어지더라고요.
네.
그러니까 항상 뭐 본인 입으로 말하는 것처럼 자기는 막 이미지 트레이닝도 많이 하고 상대 어딘지 예측이 능하다라고 말했었는데
네.
그거를 경기에서 참 여과없이 보여주면서 경기를 리드해가지고 저희가 이런 스코어 선수 갱킹 장면을 뽑아봤습니다.
네, 그렇죠. 뭐 땅굴갱이면 땅굴갱.
네.
그리고
네.
결국에 초반을 다 잘 풀어놓고 나니까 11호가 결국 그 덩치, 뭐 사이온,
네.
뭐 자크 이런 것들 상대로 뭐 스펠실드
충분히.
쓰면서 계속 딜을 잘 넣을 수 있었잖아요. 그 장면이 정말 좋았던 것 같습니다.
네, 스코어 선수의 노련함이 빛나는 장면들이었습니다. 자, 그러면 이번 경기 MVP 확인해 보겠습니다.
예상이 가능한
네.
MVP인 것 같아요.
퍼펙트하네요.
네.
분명 뭐 라인전도 다 어떻게 보면 치열할 수 있는
그렇죠.
그런 매치업이었는데 그거를 다 깨버린 게 스코어 선수의
맞습니다.
그라가스였어요.
거기다가 만약에 탱커 정글러끼리 마주치는 구도였다면은 자크 대 세주안이를 많은 분들이 예상을 하셨을 수 있을 것 같아요.
네.
근데 저기에 그라가스를 넣었다는 건 사실 탱커보다는 딜러 라인을 하나를 정글에서 더 넣음으로써 경기를 풀어나가겠다는 건데 실질적으로 나중에는 탱커 역할을 수행했지만은 초중반에 스코어 선수가 그라가스로 딜러 역할을 해주면서 이 KT의 어떻게 보면 좀 신입이라고 해야 될까요?
네.
아직은 불안할 수 있는 듀오의 어떤 성장 시간을 충분히 벌어주는 또 일조를 잘한 것 같습니다.
네,
그래서
스코어 선수가 그냥 술통 그 자체잖아요.
네.
네, 두 번째 경기에서는 또 그라가스를 들을까요?
근데 스코어 선수는 워낙 노련해서
맞아요.
그라가스가 만약에 밴된다고 하더라도 어떤 챔피언이 나와도 이상하지 않거든요. 그리고 또 항상 잘할 것 같다라는 그 믿음이
네.
있습니다.
네,
확실히 저도 기대감이 있어요.
네, 듬직한 스코어 선수. 하나생명이 그라가스를 필벤을 하지 않을까 이런
네.
생각을
네.
해봅니다. 자, 두 번째 경기 만나보겠습니다. 중계석 연결할게요.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa! We got a little bit caught there
We did.
because I just got word that, in fact, that nougat candy is a summer roll. So I had to make sure that I was completely in the loop with what candy we needed. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We're ready.
Composed.
We're ready. We're ready.
Not as composed as Score was in
heck
game number
no.
1. He won the
Heck
MVP,
no.
guys. You would have seen that over on the Korean analyst desk. Played a fantastic game, and you got to say for KT, rinse and repeat is what you want to see from them in game number 2. Utterly clean in game number 1. What we'll see from them in game number 2, will they even choose to mix things up? Because after such a straightforward victory, you could understand maybe throwing in there, throwing Mia in there, and just throwing in some more options, getting some stage
maybe
time
Gango
at
wanted to
low
have some
part.
time. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly right. But I want to look over the other side of the rift because Hanwha Life Esports, what are they going to do? Are we finally going to see Mugen? Are we going to see Soan move towards the top side of the map instead of Tal, who had a bit of a wanting experience on the rise? Like, where are we going to see the mix-ups on the other side, on the Hanwha Life Esports
See,
side?
I want to come in as an authority, but I have such a low read on where Hanwha Life are at because they showed nothing in Kesper Cup, losing to KG Seoul, and then has seemed very all at sea. Like, finding the good points of the previous game, kind of few and far between. I felt like they were just soundly beaten. I guess bot lane was pretty solid, all things considered.
I think, Sangyun finding that chunk out onto Zenit in that one team fight is probably the biggest upside that you can see.
Like, we knew Sangyun and Key were pretty good, and they played pretty good, but it didn't matter because everything else is a bit on fire from the side of Hanwha Life. So that's the part I'm unsure of, Atlas, is where do we go from here for Hanwha Life? I'd love to be told something because Hanwha Life, again, we're a contender. We could never count this team out from top 5 qualification in the last year of professional play, all throughout 2018. They didn't make it in the clutch, but they were largely there outside, and they've actually historically had some upsets over KT Rolster. So now, what can they show us, second time of asking, is a question that I'm going to leave it to them to answer.
We can see KT already sitting in their chairs, but Hanwha Life nowhere to be seen. So does this mean that we've got a change up? Does this mean that there are new players to look out for on the Rift and KT need to change their mindset? Or is it just going to be rinse, repeat, switch the sides and see whether things go better? Could be a rough one here for Hanwha Life if no changes are made. Or do they have some surprises in the draft that they can bring out for us instead of just showing us the score master?
All right, let's try and give Hanwha Life some benefit of the doubt as an org.
Okay.
They've always been very good at bringing outside strategies into the LCK. Now, that's difficult to do given that there hasn't been much outside play. Remember, they were the first Heimerdinger bot lane players. They were trying a lot of stuff in 2018. Their analysts have always had a pretty interesting read on the meta. It hasn't always been ahead, but sometimes it has been ahead. The first AP Galio player was Lava, their mid laner, so they've definitely been willing to mix things up. I'm hoping they can do that again here so you can peer into the champs. I'm trying to see if there's any trash talk there, but it's too small on our monitor, sadly.
How are you looking at that and not looking at the adorable blanket that Smeb has to keep his legs warm? It's got little chickens and eggs on it.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it was so cute. It was pink, chickens and eggs. Oh, man. Everyone knew Smeb was cute, but that's a very, very cute little blanket. But we'll see whether he can have some cute plays in this next game because he looked great. Game number 1, switching things up with the Galio top. Certainly not something that we were expecting moving
solo
into
queue
it.
special becoming a competitive play viable thing. I think that's mostly because of Galio's numbers on 9.1.
Yeah.
I feel like when he's adjusted down a bit, it needs to be mid lane to get the maximum value out of Hero's entrance. Right now, don't have to worry about Hero's entrance. WQ's blowing up people, so it's fine. KT coaching staff can feel good about the game number 1 experience. They said that we already mentioned the VOD review is going to be very short for that game. It wasn't flawless, but it was excellent from the side of KT. Looking around, Lowell Park, still such a novel thing. It still feels surreal for even you and I to be here, Atlas. It's far away from the Gangnam Nexon Arena and, of course, OGN's E-Stadium. We're here in Lowell Park, the new home of Korean League of Legends. I believe that's Emperor currently on stage for Hanwha Life for pick bands.
But talking about all of these changes, Papa, it's so beautiful to see a KT Rolster that honestly feels like it hasn't changed, despite the fact that we lost Deft, we lost Marta, Smeb's still there, we lost Ukal as well, now powering up over on the side of the Afrika Freaks, who we'll see yesterday. Still feels like the same KTs. As long as Score is there, it feels like this squad will always have the same vibe, the same way of playing League of Legends.
You do feel like there is a chance for them to be exposed just because Deft and Mata are gone in the bot lane.
Yes.
But not every duo can expose an enemy duo. Deft and Mata themselves, in fact, were that duo where their laning 2v2 caused enemy teams problems.
Yes.
Hanwha Life have a very capable duo. It's, in fact, the strength of the lineup, but finding a way to either camp the lane or get a bot side control. Remember, first Drake was taken because KT had priority bot side. Finding a priority bot lane might be Hanwha Life's most reliable way to actually finding a win condition in the now about to hit the Rift game number 2.
And of course, Sungyun wants to get that revenge against Snowflower as well, as we do get into game number 2, picks and bans. Aurelia, the first ban on the side of Hanwha Life Esports as they take up the reins of the blue side. Red shorts now to be worn by KT Rolster.
On the red side in game number 1, Aatrox, Cassiopeia, Rakan were the bans from Hanwha Life. It was actually the Aurelia Akali bans done by KT on blue, so we'll see how much develops there. Yep. Flex picks everywhere, even Galio can now officially be called an LCK flex pick, so gotta always wait to 20 seconds to get that full info.
Well, Victor going to be banned away here, which is going to be a deviation from our last game. Of course, was not actually looked at all by either team throughout the draft, so a surprise, but not wanting to get that one counterpicked for last pick potentially by KT Rolster, as they're set with the task of banning the Aatrox and the Cassiopeia, who are just a little bit too strong.
You're joining us late. Do notice no roster changes by either team. KT going to stick with what worked, and Hanwha Life, unfortunately, not going to be making any changes there either. So we're going to have to watch on eagerly to understand why Hanwha Life are rolling with this 5. They're not going to have KT pick up Galio, though. The flex pick makes it even more potent. Going to be banned on the blue side here, but that does mean some stuff is going to be slipping through, and a first pick Lucian will definitely be considered by Songyun, if not banned by KT.
And as far as the last draft, Akali is standing out, as well as that Lucian and the Rakan. As far as the differences, Lucian going to be banned away, so we'll see whether the Rakan priority is going to be there, or whether it's just going to be the Urgot taken away once again. And now, KT have the chance of locking away that Rakan for Snowflower if they want to, on the bottom side of the map, as well as getting an Akali. Can put that in a couple of different places.
And Zyrakan on red side would mean a lot more access to counter picks for the top 3 that we think are largely going to shoulder a lot of the burden on carrying KT. So Zyrakan's reliability is something that's going to be considered, you'd imagine, by KT. For now, at least, they're going to take the same read we did of, let's take a Sion and kind of deal with both mid lane and top lane aptly. Wasn't actually in effect done by Hanwha Life, but KT still following the same drafting logic. Seems like in scrims also, this Sion's been first rotation red side pretty reliable.
Yeah, about every single time. That being said, Hanwha didn't, like you say, hold on to any of those flex options. Made it pretty obvious as now Rakan is going to be locked in as we suspected. So keeping a flex in the Sion as well as locking away that priority support means that KT haven't really given away anything apart from the fact that they've got a lot of engage.
Yeah, Rakan Sion would actually show very little and give so many options, because Smeb and BDD have both been god tier Sions. In fact, our best mid lane Sion was BDD. And Smeb obviously can play the pick very aptly as well. They also can lane fine into the Ezreal Tahm Kench duo, and then you have more counter picks. Score can even respond to a jungle pick. I think that's actually the draft I would love to see from KT here, is just the Xayah. But if you're feeling confident in the 2v2, why not say, screw it, just go the Kai'Sa Rakan that other teams are trying. If you feel like skill-wise you can hang with Ezreal Tahm Kench, if you can get away with Kai'Sa, you have even more power in the late game. This would be an equally risky choice, but we're going to see Sivir Rakan, and you would assume once again a TP Sivir to try to just get through that laning phase and then have the late game Sivir win condition on Zenith.
Just not quite as much safety as Snowflower was able to show. And we had questions before our first game about, how good Snowflower was going to be able to pilot this this Tahm Kench in lane, but it did look pretty damn good. A lot of it does have to lie on the shoulders of Zenith and his good laning play.
And in general, when it came to Snowflower, it's the lane that's always been the query on him, because an excellent roaming player has threshed through all his teams, was considered must ban.
For me,
he's on the
Leona
Rakan
stands
here.
out a lot.
Played 4 games, this will be his 3rd game of Rakan. Out of lane in Kesper Cup looked outstanding. He has an eye for initiation, unlike many other supports. However, in lane did struggle, so pulling off the Sivir Rakan lane is not something we can rubber stamp just yet for the side of KT Rolster's new duo lane.
Well, the Nocturne going to be banned away from Bono this time. Last time, it was in fact Hanwha Life Esports denying that from Score. Of course, one of Score's personal favorites throughout the years. You can look back and say that he's got a lot of favorites. That certainly does stand out in my mind. The last ban will be the Gragas. A lot of respect given to the man in the jungle for KT.
But who gets the counter pick? Because conventional logic would say the flex mid lane top lane champion, but more recent logic will be jungle. We saw a lot of jungle 5th picks as recently as our first game of this series and multiple games yesterday. So we'll see if KT what's gonna consider here. You could take Sejuani and just deal with the flex picks later, and it will be that Sejuani priority question that everyone I'm trying to poll every time I see one of our Korean analysts is, what can you pick into Sejuani? Because she doesn't have the strongest dueling even after the buffs. You can go risky against this Sejuani. We saw a Karthus hover in game number 1. This is a matchup where you can start considering going for some of that dark technology.
Yeah, Bono could do some crazy stuff, or he could just be a Viking. And that's going to be locked in, so he'll take that one most likely into the jungle. And Key will round out the roster. Guess what we're looking for is either a mid laner or a top laner. Lava will have to give away whether or not he's going to be stealing that Urgot from Tal. And the Lissandra does mean that it's most likely going to be mid lane, but the flexes will theoretically continue.
Amazingly, it would take 6 games to get a Lissandra in the LCK.
It's crazy.
It was the Casper Cup staple. FLICKR playing at some amazing 5-man Ws multiple times.
BDD. I'm ready.
BDD's here, and remember, this is the Flex Scion, so what are they going to consider here for the final pick? They have knock-up synergy with Rakan, Scion, and Sejuani, so certainly there's some validity into the Yasuo. Against Lissandra, outranging is usually the way you'd prefer to go, so Zoe would certainly fall in the outranging, and they're going to go for BDD's Zoe. That reverse legendary game from Pyrian was against BDD Zoe, and we see it on the Rift for another time.
Yep, he could make Lava look a little bit silly this game because he's made so many players look silly as this Zoe, and also does mean that their damage is going to be a little bit more varied. They had a lot of physical damage available to them, of course, score with some buff damage on the Sejuani in the magic department, but otherwise they needed something to augment that. So the Yasuo not making quite as much sense despite the fact that he does have a lot of natural armor penetration. The Zoe a little bit more stylized towards what this KT comp wants.
The Yasuo doesn't give them a winning lane, the Zoe does, and that's something they've done is reinforced mid lane here. They know that Sivir Rakan is a bit more risky than what they were playing in game number 1, and thus there is some chance that lane will fall behind. Why not just get a straight up winning lane in the mid? And BDD is not just another Zoe player. He is a god tier Zoe player, one of the best we have in Korea. He's going to look to punish the mid laner of Hanwha Life here for his Lissandra team comp choice. And it does mean one more squishy, which after the world of tanks we've had so far, we do appreciate.
Yeah, we certainly feel good about that. I'm just excited to see BDD back on this champion. It feels like if he was the measuring bar for how busted Zoe was, she would have been nerfed absolutely into the ground.
And she was.
And she was, but BDD still makes her look silly. Those paddle stars hit for so much more when in the hands of one of these incredible Zoe players who've still got so many. Here in the LCK, this is going to be your roster score back on his 90% regular season win rate, Sejuani, but she's changed a little bit, feels a little bit better now.
And she hasn't done a lot of winning so far in LCK. She's
or
been
the LPL, negative win rate over there at the same time.
Close to 0% in Korea, so we'll see if Score can be our first big winner on the Sejuani as KT Rolster want to take down Hanwha Life 2-0.
Yeah, take to the Rift. See, Hanwha Life Esports fans, a little bit quieter.
Shout out to the observers who are trying to stagger the spawns there to show the teams as they're being chanted by the crowd. Very cool to see. BDD's bot lane here trying to cheese.
And he's going to be spotted by Key, who's going to say, what? Why?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, when you do expose yourself bot side there as a mid laner, it does mean that Hanwha Life with Olaf can invade a lot more brazenly. So that was either a spotting or aggressive play, hard to know. Easy to two-man invade top side. You know you won't be outnumbered when BDD was bot side. So always going to be an adjustment in level 1 warding whenever you get an extra piece of information or an extra domino falls on either side.
Yep, and that ward is going to be pinged out here. Hanwha Life understand that KT are aware of at least that entrance to their jungle. Bit of a trade here. There's Lava and BDD just trading autos, but dodges the Q, meaning that BDD will get 2 rounds of the Airy proc.
And also, do notice it was Aftershock Lissandra, so the bone plating being down is relevant now. Score was going for Unleashed Raptors, but Hanwha Life contesting the red, and difficult for Score to walk up to this for the start at least.
They are going to pull it in here as the Decimating Smash from Smeb is just going to do a bit of damage to Bono, but he doesn't mind. Still going to have that jungle priority. Oh, can he steal that away too? Score has to use the smite.
And that's a mini win in and of itself. They couldn't draw the smite out of Bono, and they do get the smite out of Sejuani. Olaf doing his best to counter jungle at the start, and walking up to a level 1 W Urgot's always going to hurt a bit.
Yeah, not going to feel too good. However, it does get the grass proc to come out. No funny business with the Scion this time around. Going for any glacial augments or anything like that.
It's a bit curious to go Grasp in a melee versus range matchup. It's going to be not the easiest to, but we see Unsealed Spellbook pretty frequently in matchups like this, or like you mentioned, something like the Glacial Augment for chase power.
Yeah, maybe just building it for the synergy with the fact that he stacks health anyway, so you can try and do that more often. But I understand exactly what you're saying. Not going to be able to walk up and just tap an Urgot generally. As Bono is making Score's life a living
no
hell
smites
right
on
now.
cooldown, remember?
Yeah, Snowflower moving on over as well, and like you said, it was certainly very relevant, but both of these junglers are without that smite button, as it's down to 260 health. Score wants to take it away, is going to get it. Not going to get 3 buff this time around, as Bono has to slink his way out.
And Hanwha Life seemed in between decisions, because if you notice on the minimap, they didn't actually push the minion wave in, even though Ezreal didn't rotate, so they couldn't get a full push to make that almost uncontestable, like making Zenit lose 3 or 4 melee minions. Instead, they kind of just invade a bit lackadaisically and don't actually deny anything from KT. So Bono will back away, and this is an interesting matchup. Olaf versus Sejuani. We had Olaf versus tank junglers define a lot of the early parts of summer.
Yes.
And a lot of that was, well, if you find the enemy tank jungler, they have to flash away. Sejuani having Arctic Assault, usually from around level 3, means she's a lot more slippery, and it's a lot harder for Olaf to invade and punish the Sejuani jungle. So the early game is where you can actually punish the Sejuani most cleanly, and for now at least, 2 big buffs are going to be claimed, but Score in general is going to be probably just fine, matching experience with the Olaf early.
Yeah, and Score as well has been able to just go to all of his camps one after the other.
Losing the red buff, not ideal, but right now actually equal in camps, and only a Scuttle Crab going to be taken away from Score.
Yeah, Bono going to be able to clean that one up. Maybe one of the first times that Score's been double scuttled in a game as Tal spots him. Heading back to base, Barmy Cinder is going to be that first buy as he's a camp behind. But should be able to pilot this early game at least adequately. See whether that first gank is going to work out for Score, as Smeb's not going to find the decimating smash, but that's a trouble bubble. Means that Paddle Star will land in lava down to half health.
Before some extra levels, you can see BDD right now, no CS advantage over Lissandra. Things get better unless Olaf and Lissandra set up a big tent in mid lane, and that's always a possibility.
Yeah, Bono's just beelining over to Score here, who has a level disadvantage as the Raptors are going to be taken down. Not quite level 4 just yet as the Arctic Assault doesn't get that one down. Meanwhile, fight in the mid lane. Super Soaker lands onto BDD as Bono makes his way in as well. No Ragnarok to stop any slows that Score can provide. So BDD down to 200 health, but will be able to get out.
They do draw a cleanse out of BDD, you'll notice, in some of the trades that happened there. No flash could be procured because Score was there for the backup. Olaf a level up, continuing to shadow. Early levels here, not going to be the most comfortable for the duo of BDD and Score.
And so far an 800 gold lead here for Hanwha Life Esports. This is night and day from their previous performance in game number 1, where they basically rolled over in this early game to the power of KT's laners. Keeping them honest, certainly. This will be a different demonstration that KT have for us, as Zenit completely empty on that mana bar, waiting for a stray Mystic Shot to come in so he can charge it up.
If you're wondering why KT have fallen behind, it's a lot of serving different masters to game number 1. In game number 1, they could worship kind of wherever Score wanted to be. You knew good things would happen. In this particular game, the bot lane and mid lane have been responding to invades, so they've had to give up CS to stop Score losing camps. The bot lane we already mentioned is a little weaker in the 2v2, so that means they're just acquiescing to the Ezreal Tom Cancel a bit more reliably. And the Zoe value from the 5th pick isn't shown until after a lost chapter and a bit more time in the mid lane. So you put all those things together, now you get a scenario where Zoe's getting pushed in, the game is slowing down, and Hanwha Life exit with about an 800 gold.
Yeah, we're going to have CS leads across the board pretty much as well, as it's only Tal that's only 4 ahead, but otherwise it's actually relatively large.
Interesting to see if Smeb cribs some notes from his old enemy, the Shy, from the World's quarterfinal, and actually goes for an Iceborne Gauntlet in this matchup, try to win lane, or just builds more health for an initiation roll. Then it goes for a pretty proactive TP in, but it's working out.
Was left a little bit wanting there. I feel like if Snowflower had have got the double knockup, it would have been a better situation, but maybe dodged a bullet, as we had a Predator Olaf running very fast towards the bottom lane.
Maybe I'm too micro looking at this though, but it seemed very late for a Predator. Sungyun and Ki were fully disengaging, and it didn't look like Zenit and Snowflower, with the Grand Entrance missing and no ultimate available, had any more chase power, so not sure once again on the comms on the Hanwha Life side, but these comms are a lot more clear.
Yep, Bono coming in for the next red buff, and he does have Tal to come down as well. Smeb actually deciding that he does not want to help. And this will be the red buff once again being stolen and taken by Bono on this Olaf. bullying Score after getting bullied in game 1. Must feel very therapeutic.
About 2.5 camps ahead for now. Raptor camp will be claimed by Score.
Yep.
But this is the mechanic we're talking about. The axe throw onto an Amumu, that's a bad time, but onto a Sejuani. She's got the Arctic Assault. She's over the wall. BDD is starting to get a bit more wantonly aggressive with the Lissandra.
Yep, just portal jumping into the point blank trouble bubble is a good news story. Okay, Bono actually looking for something here as they get the choo-choo train to leave the station. Smeb's not going to have that ultimate. We'll have to get his way back towards top lane.
Score half a camp away from level 6 might be significant as mid lane.
As BDD actually has to use the flash. That's his own one as well. No cleanse available. That had a couple of seconds. He's trying to get away. Bono still chasing him here if you cast your eyes to the minimap, but finally will disengage.
Observer was drawn to the ultimate being used by Zenith there, but again, no realistic way for Score to pull off a gank there. It's cleanse time, Kench. His ult's not available just yet, so because of that, they back away. So one single tool used. As Bono says, I want to steal both your big buffs.
This is what happens when you have lane priority absolutely everywhere. BDD making a late rotation over, but I don't think they're going to be able to contest unless Score gets something very lucky. BDD doesn't even have Smite, so he has to get his way out. Claw of Doom means that he can't get in there, and Hanwha Life Esports double buff on the second round. Bono really striking back here as Tal gets behind Smeb. Does still have the flash available, but no unstoppable onslaught.
Looking for the kill here. This could be a solo kill.
Yeah, exactly. The Ignite is down. Has to flash, but does it very late. Thankfully, still able to survive.
Damage calculation just, and I mean just, on point from Smeb to be able to get away from that one. But Hanwha Life, a lot more good news stories this time, Atlas. This is the Hanwha Life we should praise, because their early game plan, the win condition was pretty thin, which is try to actually punish the enemy jungle and mid lane in one fell swoop, and they've done it. 17 CS lead. And basically both roles about the same lead, and that's good news to slow down what should eventually be a pretty comfortable lane for the Zoe.
Yeah, it's looking very, very different from what we saw from KT, but does this mean that they're just slowing things down early in order to put on the pressure late? Immediately, I'm saying maybe not. I mean, the scaling available from Hanwha Life is no worries there. They've got a lot of safety, a lot of rotational power with the Tahm Kench at their side. Certainly a lot of options here for Hanwha as they move forward in this game, and we saw that Urgot Lissandra, tried and true tactic, works very, very well for even a team like KT, who showed it to great effect.
If you maintain your lead, because they lack true engage going for an Ezreal Tahm Kench, they don't have a Rakan who can have some backline threats, so if you can keep the enemy coming to you, that can be big.
Yeah, ult is going to land, and the Doom Claw is no longer there. Lava still going to take a lot of damage to kill as Portal Jump comes in. Ult has to be self-cast by Lava to keep himself alive. Now doesn't have very many buttons available, but thankfully holds onto his flash.
BDD trolled by a minion. His trouble bubble hit a minion in front of the Lissandra. That probably was the last bit of burst needed to make that a very different scenario, but Lava actually maintains his flash through all of that.
That's just crazy. Does have to use the ultimate. Now Smeb having some troubles on the top side. Score hanging around here. Doesn't have ultimate, remember. They will lose another Scuttle Crab. That is more incremental losses when it comes to the gold. 2.4 thousand gold going to be the lead here for Hanwha Life. The first dragon will most likely go over to Bono as well.
And again, because of what I'm saying in terms of backline threat, I think Sivir with the front line is still where I'd put the smart money on in the late game. But as you say, SKT led the way with this duo. And if you can maintain map control, your Baron threat and things like that can be so powerful. Mid lane, BDD continues to have a fun time with Lava.
Gets a cheeky Q off against him though, and Lava able to just get himself out. Score, of course, was there. The ultimate still on cooldown. That's going to be 2 of the turret platings going over to Sangyun.
There's just no good news story, right? There's no good news story on the side of KT. Bot lane's being pushed in as we anticipated with the Sivir Rakan mismatch. Bot lane's going better than expected. No Iceborne Gauntlet start fighting back, and mid lane going way worse than expected for KT because of all the responding to Score and trying to baby him through a awkward early phase. Means that almost a 30 CS lead is being put together by Lava. If they can actually find some more meaningful map objectives, say the Rift Herald in the next 2 to 3 minutes, there's a chance that KT are just not going to have breathing room before we hit the late game Sivir win condition.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, let's just scale, guys, but you can't scale if they get the 50 gold that's inside your Nexus. It's just not a thing that you can do. But it's going to be Bono once again pushing this lead, now taking the Rift Herald as 2 of the turret plates go over to Lava in this mid lane as well. This is night and day, a completely opposite experience here for Hanwha Life Esports in Game 2.
5 turret plates have been taken. The math there is not so difficult. That's 800 gold that has been claimed by the side of Hanwha Life that KT can't respond to. And in the mid lane, BDD's living on a prayer.
Yeah, does have himself the cleanse, so keeps himself alive, but that is without very much health at all. Ultimate on cooldown, as Score is actually going for this one. Ragnarok has to be popped. As Score was thinking about actually waiting it out, but because BDD had such a poor trade, means that he couldn't go any further.
Ezreal
Shot
ult.
barrage, not going to find BDD, but that was damn close.
Wasn't going to kill him, but definitely would have gotten him perilously low. Tal rotating to mid lane as Science pushed out. Here's the Ezreal and the Rift Herald. They want this mid lane turret right now.
And they're going to get some turret plates for it as well, as Score is waiting. He wants to find the opportune target. Still, very, very low on health is this tower, and they decide it's not time to go in. Score doesn't pull the trigger. Decimating Smash going to be charged as Tal face checks another brush. Finds that not to be the right decision, but Disdain will get himself out there. Doesn't get the mini stun from the Arctic Assault. Does Score. Throws out the ultimate, though, as Lava uses the last of his mana on that claw. The double knockup is in here for KT. They want to finish this off, and Snowflower was so close to getting in there in time, but just not quite able to get that synergy.
There's no real damage between the duo here. Yes, there is more damage on Sejuani than in the past, but a lot of that is from ranking up E, and you only have 2 points. Actually, just a single point. Arctic Assault as the second point here. So no extra point in the permafrost means no damage to take down the enemy there. So they back away. KT kind of misjudging this scenario. And they continue to bleed out a little bit as Hanwha Life fairly bloodlessly, remember, no kills in this game, have assembled basically a 4,000 gold lead largely off all the turret plates.
Yeah, turret plates. Of course, you get 2 of them, and it's a little bit more than a kill. So you can count them up, and you can see that certainly not feeling like 0-0 this time around.
This is the 2019 meta, though. You don't need to get kills or even a huge amount of turrets to find a lot of gold in the laning phase. It's the cost of lanes both going against KT in an expected fashion and in an unexpected fashion. We find KT pretty much in the hole in terms of gold, and that's why Score and Smeb have to really consider their next attempt at an engage.
Well, you can see Lava actually getting out with that claw, but not after taking the paddle star to the back of the head as BDD jumps forward, still has to use the cleanse to get out of the way, but True Shot Barrage goes completely wide. Even the Blue Sentinel is getting in amongst this one, as 4 members of KT might be able to lock down this blue buff finally. I have a feeling it will have to be a smite, though, to get it out of the way as BDD finding some more poke damage. Lava gets into the backline, even takes the blue buff, as now Snowflower trying to get his way out. Double teleports coming in, and that is Smeb. I don't know whether the choo-choo train's going to find the mark. He's still considering going for it. It's not going to happen this time around. Continues to be a 0-0 game, but that was a successful steal from Hanwha.
Snowflower had a massive multi-man quickness that no one could capitalize on. He has the backline threat, as we mentioned, but this is so much earlier. It's not even Berserker Greaves on Zenit. No way for him to close the distance there, even with his ultimate available. They can't push damage in. Right now, KT, they need to find a way to supplant some map control. They can't allow Olaf to contest every camp for basically no penalty, not even having to pop his ult most of the time. They need to stem the bleeding that Hanwha Life have been right on point with inflicting in the early game.
Oh, we got the train to come out here again. Disdain is great once more from Tal, but you can't get out of multiple abilities.
No damage here, Atlas.
Yeah, they're not going to actually land anything over the top as Zenit was out of the way. Thankfully, no Unbreakable to deny that Boomerang Blade, but still not going to get in there in time.
You just can't. They're trying to roll this skirmish comp with 3 members, but the 3 members are a Rakan, a Sejuani, and a Sion. That's not the 3 members that do damage like they did in game number 1. So KT trying to repeat that and finding no inroads in game number 2.
Yeah, and you can see BDD, he's just trying to catch up in the minions, trying to clear out this mid lane, and there's nothing he can really do about it. Yes, he's now brought it within 9, but it is going to be a second dragon going over to Hanwha Life. Thankfully for KT fans, they're not exactly the most high priority, but the first one still does mean a lot, and movement speed is fantastic, especially against a Sivir, as you want to try and keep up or get away from the On the Hunt.
I really do appreciate this early game, and I'm sure some people at home aren't enjoying it, but the thing I've learned from this, and I'm always about the learnings in the early part of the season, is there was a real penalty for not going Xayah Rakan. Xayah Rakan would have really empowered the bot lane to be a lot more assertive when it comes to early trades. Sivir, as we know, needs a bit of time, and much stronger as the game goes on. And because they didn't go the Xayah Rakan, and things kind of went the best case possible for Lava and Bono in the 2v2 against BD and Score, the turret plates were the result. And having priority in multiple lanes has led to a really big gold lead. Again, this gold lead is quintessential 2019. That is the cost, the blood in the hands of KT for going for that more scaling choice. And Hanwha Life, when they do hit the first fight, will have a bit more room for mistakes because they just have more gold in the war chest.
Yes, and it's going to be a very different story now. We've got the moving the Ezreal to the mid lane, has his 2 items, but this is at a clip that we didn't see in game number 1. This is much more effective because the Sivir is now trying to hold on to the top lane, not able to be there to answer, and we don't even have a mid lane outer turret to even worry about for Hanwha Life.
Already as KT, you're saying words like scaling and Sivir far too much, and that's an indication that Hanwha Life made a lot of good trades and a lot of good moves in the early game. Songyun actually queues into the Baron pit, which late in the game you can see in the darkness and be worried about, but there's no Baron there and no Rift Herald. Predator pop, they're trying to threaten a turret dive here.
Yep, BDD. Gonna find any joy in that paddle star, but at least makes his presence known to avoid this tower going down for free. Score wanting to get rid of this control ward, but can't actually risk it. Claw not going to be followed up on there from Lava, but everyone backing away from KT. Score standing on that one, but not going to have that one armed anymore.
But fighting from behind, definitely a different look to the fighting from ahead and flexing that we saw from KT in game number 1. Smeb continues to back away. Songyun's now mid lane.
Oh,
That's a trouble bubble.
That was one hell of a snipe as he gets stunned up. There's the grand entrance. This is a CG train. And now we've got some damage as Zenit grabs first blood. And they'll take a tower to boot. This is exactly what you want to get KT back into this game.
But it required a super play just to get a single kill, just to get a single foothold in game number 2. And Hanwha Life, meanwhile, are still able to enact quite a lot of global pain. They get the turret of their own. They continue to push up. Meb walking into lane, doesn't have any threat yet, this tower, but to continue to work on that. And Hanwha Life can get a second turret in the mid lane. That is a very long mid lane for them to push up. And remember, the mid lane turrets being down means that so much advanced vision can spot out Sejuani, spot out Sion, and spot out a lot of the engage options for KT.
Let's have a look at this one again. It was beautiful from BDD, but like you say, not going to change the state of the game too much.
More often than not, that play doesn't come off. It does this time. They get the Wombo engage down. But that's just to get something, because meanwhile, they've been marching to the drum, the drum beat that's been set by Hanwha Life. So it's a small glimpse. It's half a smile, but they still need to work on something to hope to fight for a Mountain Drake, which spawns in about a minute and a half.
Yep. The thing you can look at is KT have brought things back to relatively even when it comes to the CS. Looking on the other side of the rift, Songyun powering up as this Ezreal has that Muramana transform. Sorcerer Shoes built very, very early. Often you see Songyun actually make that evolution after some AP items have been picked up, just to make sure you can ultimately capitalize on it. Not this time. Wants to be able to move around a little bit faster as Lava takes a free turret on the top side.
If you're wondering about Sorcerer's Shoes, it's pretty reminiscent of bot lane Corki and even mid lane Corki, champions that build AD but still have a lot of magic damage in their kit. It's for more R damage when you're going for that siege. Going to see a Gunblade. It's going to be a pretty hybrid build, as we know from double tier Ezreal, but just want to outline that because an AD carry going Sorcerer's Shoes needs a bit of explanation.
It's a little bit confusing, but they may have actually caught out Zenit here as he's in no man's land. Snowflower trying to help with the quickness, but nope, nothing they can do. The entire bottom lane just going to be torn apart by this Urgot, and Tal having a redemption game for himself here in this one.
And it's all about that long mid lane. You can't just walk around that terrain, amble around a spot that's safe when you have an outer mid lane turret, and oh so risky when you have no inner turret. At 21 minutes, nice play from Hanwha Life. We called for them to call on the fly, something they didn't seem to be able to do in game number 1. I guess some words from the coaching staff have really helped them out.
Yeah, certainly a very different thing, as we are going to have a replay to find out exactly how this all went wrong, but this looks like a positional mistake and a fantastic Abyssal Voyage.
At 20 minutes, this seems like an inting Abyssal Voyage, but because there is no inner or outer mid lane turret in mid, KT are actually overextended much earlier in the game than usual, so inspired stuff from Key. And that means that Bono can happily solo down an inner, a Drake here, the Mountain Drake, third Drake of the game already at 21 minutes.
And how can KT actually clean this up? Because this lead is just extending and extending. Or is this going to be Hanwha finally showing us that they do have more to offer? They do have more to show. This isn't a squad that's just going to fall down to amateurs in the Kesper Cup and then have a woeful LCK. They can bounce back and they can make things change, as Score is about to be possibly able to figure that one out as Tal jumping in towards the backside of this fight as well as the Devour on top of the Piggy. And Key says that was some delicious Samgyeopsal to start this one off.
Extension of all that map control. They had that flank ward there and no defensive wards for KT. To answer your question, KT right now are really at the whims of what Hanwha Life wants to do about this game. They have so little agency to force things because they're walking over wards left, right, and center. 6-item Sivir win condition, piling on the CS. Yes, those things still exist, but those things require misplays from Hanwha Life rather than good plays from KT. So for now, Hanwha Life continue to push up, and every single ward's getting mowed down by the Urgot.
Yeah, a couple of control wards in the mid lane, but like you say, Papa, this map is controlled. This map is the territory of Hanwha Life Esports, showing that Lysandra Urgot comp is still very, very good. Then like you say, picking up minions, but just don't, like, it is that dirty word, the dirty scaling word that just doesn't feel like it works here in 2019 because this gold lead is very quickly becoming insurmountable. There's not a lot that KT can do. 7,000 is approximately that lead here for Hanwha Life Esports, and Score making his way over to the Baron Pit, just desperately trying to make sure that this one isn't going to get started off anytime soon. Zenit wants half of his health bar back, Sungin.
Frontline is going to be the most stifled on the side of KT. Usually, we talk about how Sivir is going to heavily outdamage Ezreal in these largely tank versus tank battles. Issue is, Hanwha Life have more tanks, and the Ezreal has way more gold. In the purse right now, Kleptomancy, a 20 CS lead, more global gold from all the turrets that have gone down, and the front line is a bit on welfare here. Specifically, Score is going to be behind more base stats, but the passive certainly not going to be as useful after the adjustments to the ratios, and he himself 25 CS down on his jungle opponent. Zenit has to find farm at his inner turret line at 24 minutes. A very different quandary for the Sivir.
And also needs BDD and Score to protect him while that happens. And it may not actually be enough here as they've caught out Snowflower. Does get into the stopwatch, but that is a C. Oh my goodness, he escapes the grand entrance as well to help him at the end. That battle dance, beautifully timed. Hanwha can't grab the kill, but they do have all of the priority. KT want to find more as Snowflower goes back to the base. Zenit down to half health now, but still some lower health bars on Hanwha Life. That's the double snare to come in. As Score has a stopwatch. Smeb jumps himself all the way out, doesn't go for the stun, just wants to get rid of them. Takes them on a merry chase. I don't know whether that's exactly what they wanted as the ult misses from Score. Not something that we're used to seeing. And Smeb does pay the ultimate price in the end. That was a very weird team fight, Papa Smithy, but still, it's Hanwha Life that do manage to come out on top.
It ended up being a Scion Speedway. I think Smeb was just using ult to interrupt some CC and actually try to occupy space, because if he's just leaving the fight, there's no front line for Zoe and Sivir to do damage. So that was more of an amusing after effect, a yakety sax moment, if you will, rather than intentional. Speaking of intentional, Trouble Bubble will at least annoy Bono and get them a single cooldown, but minion waves pushing and bottom top, those fast minions, another Speedway to speak of. Sivir's back, but still a long way away from having the damage items she need. Hanwha Life couldn't get a game-winning push out of that, but they certainly continue to instill doubt to KT fans.
Well, it certainly still is a massive gold lead, about a 9,000 gold situation as we check out this very interesting team fight. Keep your eye on the Scion, but a good start here from Lava and good positioning to begin this one from
So
Hanwha
Snowflower
Life.
gets out, a surprise. He should have been in the death chamber, but I still used a lot of tools to do so. That's stasis and also his flash used to make the move. The re-engage here from Lava is super on point. This is a very, very long extended replay, as we can see. Ooh, a little bit of technology there to flip it around. Lava comes back in, actually takes the claw. A lot of people would not have taken this. And the reason, again, that Smeb ults is to try to occupy space further, to hope that BD and Zenit can do some damage. Definitely doesn't want to be flanking at this point. No inting Scion on full display, no AD in the build. That's, of course, the biggest spoiler to that. So from here, Scion eventually goes down. That's all they get. A bit of Baron control, a Scion kill, but no game-winning objective for the side of Hanwha Life.
But what happens if Score hits that ultimate? What happens if that Glacial Prison actually locks someone down? They can get a pick. Make it a 4v4 with Snowflower making his way back in. Potentially different outcome from that scenario. So KT at least holding on to some relevance when these fights do happen, but it's just getting thinner and thinner. The options that they have certainly not there with any Infinity Edges on the side of Zenit. And we got the Archangel staff stacking up towards that Seraphs here for Sungyun.
And if If you're the side,
Inevitability.
and if you're the side of Hanwha Life, and you know the scenario of, okay, well, Sivir's in the mid, just trying to get 5-6 more waves for another purchase, you know that everywhere you go, you'll outnumber. You know that you'll have a lot of an advantage around the map because everything KT is doing now is defensive around Zenit getting more items. That's what you're trying to do in this particular case. So you will outnumber wherever you go because of the enemy's focus on defensive play around Sivir. So that should mean lots of deep vision, the ability to catch someone like Sejuani looking to push forward with the sweeper and clear vision. Tao can go with pretty brazen aggressiveness and go to brushes behind the red buff to contest vision being put down. That's the state of the game here, and KT should be punished for every extra minion wave that Zenit gets access to.
Yeah, so far not quite that story. Hanwha Life do need to keep their fingers on the, feet on the pedal as far as moving forward, but Hanwha Life going to teleport their way back in. That's key with his spellbook. They're going to start off this Baron. KT moving on over, get the vision very early. So Hanwha will break their way away, but they'll be counting these blue trinkets, making sure that they know that they have complete control over the area and can start the Baron basically whenever they want.
Now you do see these cues, which should indicate to the side of KT that Hanwha Life are poking around the Baron. Right now, Baron damage pretty decent, as you can see from the Ezreal. They're on it already. Score still feels strong enough to walk up. He needs to.
Yeah, we do have the control ward in there, so the steal is certainly available.
2-level lead for the enemy jungle, but
Yeah,
here's the turn.
Lava jumps on forward, but they are going to turn off this Baron. Snowflower trying to dance his way up. Vital right into the backline. Can he actually get the Fear Beyond Death? Snowflower just going to try and juke his way around, and so far doing a great job, but no, there it is. Arms it, gets a couple of fears as well. It's the only kill they've taken so far as Smeb will be the second. KT Rolster lose 2, and Hanwha Life now have an opportunity to head towards the Baron after they get some health bars back.
Tempo lead finally gets a meaningful objective for Hanwha Life. The 2 kills here should mean a lot of Baron control, but Score is healthy enough to continue to contest it. How will Hanwha Life problem solve themselves right now? Because finding a big objective like Baron is what they desperately need.
Yep, teleport is going to come in as Hanwha Lava has to move around the trouble bubble. BDD flashing his way out. That is not a counterfeit one as Score might be in trouble. Arctic Assault gets him to relative safety. True Shot Barrage is going to be spell shielded, but otherwise eaten by the rest of KT. Now too low to defend this easy Baron for Hanwha Life Esports. And the good news stories for Hanwha fans are piling in this game. Let's check this one out once again.
They try to turn onto Lava here and blow him up pre-ult, but he gets the ult off, and that means the turn will never be successful. You're kind of watching here and seeing how many red names will I see, how many people are going down for KT. It ends up being 2, very late arm on the Fear Beyond Death, and Smeb 1v3 was always going to inevitably die. But the 2 summoners, actually, the deep teleports are what actually gets them the Baron, and that's what we were talking about. The meaningful objective that Hanwha Life have been grasping for, but not able to claim, comes around 29 minutes. And now with the Baron buff and multiple lanes to push, not even the Infinity Edge being done for Zenit should be the big answer, as Ezreal with Baron buff forces you to react, and then each of those ultimates should be just deleting health bars on the side of KT.
Yeah, finally Sungyu can breathe a sigh of relief, saying that he wasn't going to get 2-0'd by Snowflower, his former bottom lane duo. Sungyu now has to be a little bit careful of BDD. Still not over until the Fat Lady sings. However, she is really readying her voice this game, Papa. Hanwha Life, 13,000 gold the lead. They've got the Baron, they've got the tools in order to finish this one off.
Hanwha Life continue to push in top side, and it's just a case of escorting Sivir between laning phases because not really much else they can do at this present point. The Baron makes it so difficult for even Sivir to wave clear. Here's Sungyu in the mid lane. Remember that Ezreal, with that change, pushed pretty fast. He's engaged.
There's the double knock-up to come in, as well as the Tahm Kench will be the first one on the menu. The Grey Help is going to slow this one down very, very much, but not going to be enough as Hanwha Life say, well, I guess you can kill our Tahm Kench, but we're going to have a much better time elsewhere. True Shot Barrage, mid-animation, and BDD is going to take him down as well. So the bottom lane are traded for an inhibitor top side of the map, and now Hanwha trying to find more. BDD in trouble. Portal jump. Not going to be able to get out of the way of anything, though, as Bono grabs that kill. More bad news here for KT as their base is broken and they now no longer have their Zoe for the wave clear.
And you see how inconsequential slick teamfight moves from a Zoe and an Infinity Edge Sivir is after all the early game went askew for the side of KT. Hanwha Life is still able to walk over, get the kill on the back end there. Doesn't matter that Sungyun went down. In fact, he can TP back in 15 seconds. The Baron buff being used to its fullest. They want to break the base in 3 lanes. 2.5 seems pretty possible.
Pretty likely that Key can also teleport his way back in with his spellbook also, so not too much of a worry here. 1 second and Sungyun can make his way back in, but Key just going to wander his way up.
Third inhibitor turret should go down as well. This is a bonanza value Baron for the side of Hanwha Life. Baron with Zoe, always so important against Zoe. The similar story. 3 inhibitors go down, and I think we might be getting the first 3-game series of LCK Spring 2019.
Yeah, definitely a welcome thing as well, as all 3 inhibitors, like you say, have been taken down. Still 50 seconds on that Baron, but so far, the power play is enough to rest on, you know? Hanwha Life pretty happy with it. They'll just clear out the rest of the KT jungle and go home and spend a very, very large bucket of change.
And it's actually correct to push in and steal Krugs. You might say, you got 3 inhibitors, just sharp, Sungyun, what are you doing? You don't want any resources left for the side of KT. They have 2 hard carries that can use them very deftly in the late game. Don't leave that there. I understand deftly is an awkward turn of phrase with how KT fans are feeling. Steal the blue, steal everything from them. Nothing left, no lunch money for KT Rolster. How about even a Cloud Jade? Because, hey, you want that Elder to spawn as soon as possible.
Yep, 5 Drakes as well coming in for Hanwha Life Esports, and having 3 Clouds, one of my personal favorites. Just zipping around the map as quickly as you like. These rotations that they can make on any desperation engage KT find on a single member, certainly not going to give them anything.
Well, the full court press happening from Hanwha Life. They're freshly sharp. There's item leads in every lane. Seems impossible for KT to keep this going, but they're going to damn try.
Yep, 6 super minions moving in every wave as well as KT standing under their Nexus turrets, but they're not going to be there for very long as even Lava's auto attacks are ridiculous. He dives his way forward. The health bars of the KT Rolster team are just disintegrating. Score going to go down first. Smeb has his Gargoyle Stone Plate, but it doesn't feel like it's doing anything right now, and Zenit going to be the second to go down. KT, the fountain is no longer safe, and they'll be wiped, and their Nexus very soon to follow.
And big ups to Hanwha Live, showing us that just a mental reset and another solid draft was all they needed to flip our expectations in this best of 3. We will be going the full 3 games. Hanwha Life are able, with no roster changes, to adjust to the early game, increase the tempo, get way more value out of Bono on this Olaf than we could have predicted. I thought KT had a very solid draft, but there are always going to be small things that can be attacked. Every draft is not flawless. There are always going to be small things that you can get the maximum from. And to say Hanwha Life got the maximum, they beat KT Rolster, our reigning champions, and now suddenly our first series is in the midst of a bit of an uproar. We don't know which way it'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, momentum plays a huge factor in this one. Hanwha Life having all of that power moving into game number 3. So can KT just shake it off, have a little bit of a stronger draft? Moving over to the blue side as well, it's likely that they'll be the ones piloting things like the Urgot that they can maybe have a little bit of better luck on. It's not likely Hanwha can repeat the same team composition exactly. However, just having the mental game in your favor that hard, you have to say that this is going to be almost 50-50 for both of these teams.
And the Sejuani, we have to say once again, such a big reputation, such a lot of reason for it to be powerful. But because we're still transitioning between metas, we don't have the crit changes, feels like Sejuani and what she provides in a team comp isn't quite working out in the current meta. People are still finding ways to attack the weaknesses here. And Zoe and Sejuani were so far off the pace of what was being set by the Lissandra and Olaf and how reliably aggressive they can be, that actually ended up with Score being a large reason for his team's loss after being the MVP of game number 1.
And also BDD not being able to really get all that much done. I feel like the identity of KT's team comp sort of didn't quite mesh together all that well, but you can see this is a very linear gold graph. This was almost control from minute 1 from Hanwha Life, and they never let up.
And honestly, you can basically copy-paste what we said when this graph came up last time and say, only 3 kills and a turret to KT. They got a turret more than Hanwha Life was pulling off in game number 1 where they only got 3 kills.
Yeah.
5 Drakes put together from Hanwha Life. A bonanza of objectives, and KT Rolster with a lot to think about coming into what could be a really interesting game number 3.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what this, I guess, draft is going to look like in game number 3 as well, because is Score going to go back to something a little bit more damage focused? Because now he has to put far more respect into what Bono's going to be capable of and can't just get away with scaling in the earlier stages of the game.
No walkovers. I think Sivir and Sejuani are the 2 picks that KT will look at.
Yeah, it could be a problem, but guys, some highlights and we'll be back for game number 3.